call the meeting to order of the City of Atwater City Council and successor agency to the Atwater Redevelopment Agency, August 11th, 2014 at 6:02. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance by Councilman Jeff Rivero. Please remain standing for the invocation.
Ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our gracious Creator, tonight we recognize your presence with us. And tonight I would ask a special prayer that our hearts might be open and feel the yearnings of those people from the AT&T company that are losing their jobs or may have to move. And we know that it is with a heavy heart, Lord, that this is happening to our city. And we just ask that your presence be with all of those employees and their families. We recognize that you are always before us and behind us. You are always within us and over us and around us. And you are always under our feet to move us on the path that you would have us to go. May we recognize that presence. In the name of the one who loves us all. Amen.
Amen. Please be seated. Thank you very much for coming this evening. Please check your cell phones to be sure they're turned off. Roll call.
Bergman?
Here.
Mooneyham?
Here.
Jeff Rivero?
Here.
Joe Rivero?
Here.
Fall?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Report out from closed session. There was no reportable items taken as staff was given direction. Approval of the agenda is posted or amended. It's this time that the City Council has the opportunity, members have the opportunity to remove an item from the agenda or change the order of the agenda. Is there any council persons who wish to change the order of the agenda or pull an item? Then I'll introduce a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Moved by City Manager Petro.
I'm sorry, Mayor. I have a request by the Mayor Pro Tem to pull number 7, item number 7, in the and bring back at the next council meeting.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Well, point of clarification, I think we're only doing the main agenda, not the consent calendar.
Please remove it from the entire agenda.
Oh, the entire agenda. I apologize.
Okay.
Next meeting.
Pull the item number 7 for the next meeting.
Correct.
Okay. Which is August 25th. Is that correct?
Yes.
City Clerk?
Yes.
Okay.
Number
Is there
7.
any other items that need to be pulled? Seeing none, I have a motion by Mr. Bergman. Did you want to amend that motion to
Nope, still sounds good to me.
include item number 7 to that motion of approval as amended?
Yes, ma'am.
Do I have a
I'll second it.
second by just Councilman Joe Rivero? Do we have any further discussion? Call for the question.
Bergman?
Yes.
Jeff Rivero?
Yes.
Joe Rivero?
Yes.
Mooneyham?
Yes.
Fall?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, under ceremonial matters, we were going to present a certificate of appreciation and recognition of Dave Church's 28 years of service with the City of Atwater, but due to the fact that his wife was in a training today and was unable to come, he has requested that we move this ceremonial matter to August 25th. So we are moving the recognition of Dave Church to August 25th. Comments from the public?
At this time, any person may comment on any item which is not on the agenda. Please state your name and address for the record. Action will not be taken on an item that is not on the agenda. If it requires action, it will be referred to staff and/or placed on a future agenda. To comment on an item that is on the agenda, please wait until the item is read for consideration. Please limit comments to a maximum of 3 minutes.
Okay, first person to comments from the public?
Linda Dash, Atwater, and mine's very short. I would just like to offer my compliments to our mayor, Joan Fall, for standing with the AT&T employees today in their plight to prevent them from being terminated, and I think that's quite a nice thing that you did as mayor of Atwater, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Jim Price, 3467 Village Woods. Before all the other hoopla and everything else, I want to, on at least from my standpoint, I want to thank Craig Mooneyham and Jeff Rivero for their service to our community. We haven't always been on the same page. We've always, had our differing opinions and been opposites on a lot of things. But one thing that we, I think, share is the belief that this city is the best city that we could possibly all live in. And your dedication and your service to this community is something to be applauded. And the city, I think, will be a little less beneficial, shall I say, of your opinions and your actions and the things that you brought to the table. And I, for one, want to thank you for that. And I also, on another matter, want to say that we've done an ordinance in the city here for the water and the conservation. And, laws and ordinances and things of this nature are something good, for the whole. But the problem is the enforcement mechanism. And I can only say, for at least down on my street alone, I see countless homes with sprinklers and hoses running, with water running over the sidewalks down the street. I came on my way to work this morning with seeing a house with a sprinkler head broken, and the water was gushing and running down the street. And if you've watched, the U.S. Weather Service reported that the El Nino we expect this winter is going to be, as they termed, weak. In other words, we're in for another ride next summer with another drought. And if that holds up, then we are really in deep trouble. So I'm asking that people that are watching and people here today, please, please, please watch the water that you are using, because it's going to be precious and it's going to be really short. So with that, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Before we go on, would you want to make a comment on that, city manager, or do you want to wait until our public works person makes the comment? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Price. Any other person, please come forward.
Hi, my name's Travis Waller, 1076 Constitution Court, Merced, actually, is where I live. I want to thank Mayor Fall and the City Council for allowing me to speak today. I'm with CWA, the local union with AT&T Call Center. Want to thank the City Council for signing the letter to help show support for trying to save the jobs for the call center in Atwater. And also like to show thanks to Ms. Fall for coming out, showing your support, being loud and proud today. And we're basically here to ask for a show of support from the community. We're trying to get local business people, sign letters, sending that you're showing support, try to save the jobs here. Also, we have some cards if you're not a business owner or just want to show support. We have some cards that you can sign. We'll mail out to the big wigs that are helped trying to tear us down. We have learned recently that AT&T has leased the buildings through the end of December. They're basically going to start tearing stuff down as we leave in August 25th. Basically, we got support from the legislative, Congressman Costa, Senator Canella, and Assembly Gray already. They have all signed letters imploring AT&T to reconsider the closure of the call center. Currently, as you guys know, we're at 4.5 to 4.8% unemployment between Merced and Atwater. And it basically, it only reflects the people that are currently receiving unemployment benefits, doesn't count any of those that are not. So basically, we're just here to help, get the support from the community. We still need people to show their, that they would like to save it. It's gonna affect everybody. But if you come up to me later, I can give you an address, email if you want to email a letter to ask for support.
Thank you.
I think.
Councilman Jeff Rivera?
I was going to let the gentleman know, who just spoke from AT&T, if you can let your members know, September 18th and October 16th, we'll be having a town hall meeting here at the Chambers, and that's to try to help anybody that may, because of losing their job, have a hard time with their home payments. So we're going to have representatives from Save Your Home California, Keep Your Home California, and they will present some of the options that people may be able to take to stay in their homes, especially with the loss of their job. So if you could let your members know that. September 18th and October 16th.
Okay, September 18th and October, what did you say the other date? 16th. At
That'll be here in the Chambers.
what time?
6 p.m.
6 p.m. Thank you.
And Senator Cannell's office is the one that set it up for them to be here, so we really appreciate them helping step in for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else who wishes to come forward and speak? Seeing none, then we will move on to public comments to the consent calendar.
Background information has been provided on all matters listed under the consent calendar, and these items are considered to be routine. All items under the consent calendar are normally approved by one motion. If discussion is requested on any item, that item will be removed from the consent calendar for separate action.
Okay. At this time, I'm going to request that we pull item number 11. That is the Public Works Report, and I would like to have Mr. Ferretta, our interim Public Works Director, talk to us about the water, as Mr. Price was talking to us about the water and how the enforcement of the ordinances and what they've done so far in Public Works to work on the water thing. And we do have these water restriction forms, and if you, on the water, if you want to call, I'm sure at 357-6370, and they could give you more information on the water enforcements of water times and this kind of thing. So I'm pulling 11. Okay, City Council members, yeah, Councilman Jeff Rivera.
Yes, I'd like to pull number 6 and number 4, please.
Just a minute. Okay, pull.
4 and 6.
Okay, just 4 and 6, sir?
Yes.
Okay. Any council persons on this side? Any?
No.
No?
No.
None for you, Mr. Bergman? Any other persons here? Okay. With that, we are going to be pulling items number 11, 4, and 6 for separate action. So then I'm going to ask the public if they wish to come forward and comment on any of the remaining items on the consent calendar. Seeing none, I'm going to move on and entertain a motion to approve the remainder of the consent calendar, which would be 1, 2, 3, 5, 7 has been pulled, right? 8, 9, 10, and 11 has been pulled, right? Okay. So is there a motion to approve those items?
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Joe Rivero to, for approval of those items. Is there a second?
Second motion.
Second?
Yes.
Second on Jeff, thank you. Any further discussion? Call for the question.
Bergman,
Yes.
Jeff Rivero,
Yes.
Mooneyham,
Yes.
Joe Rivera,
Yes.
Fall.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, we'll start with item number 4. That is the property disposition procedure. That would be Community Development Director McBride. And Jeff Rivero is the person who requested this, so we'll go.
Yes, this basically gives a toolkit, if you will, to allow us to start working on the sale of some of the former agency properties. It only includes 4 properties. There are 2 that you had approved for future development. Those are the 2 parking lots that we hope to retain for the city use in the downtown area. The other 2 properties have been designated for disposition, and the funds would be used to offset your obligations. Those would be for the Atwater feed location and a small parcel next to Moore's Automotive. So those, we're only talking about those four parcels. This basically kind of outlines all the different possibilities that there are, different methods for disposing of property, whether it be through auction, sale, those types of things. It does, however, set up the idea that we need to get an appraised value of the land. You do work in connection with the oversight board on this. You are going to be involved with reviewing it. They make some of the final decisions on it. And, but at least this allows kind of a framework for a process that we don't have before. There's no requirement in the law to have it, but we thought it was important to set it up because these might take some time to go through. And as you have turnover or changes with either the council or the oversight board, it's good to have a background or a place to start. And to that end, we already have actually requested proposals for appraisals for some of the properties to kind of get the process started. And I'd be more than happy to answer your questions you would have.
Councilman Jeff Rivero?
Yes, will this help with the improvements that we're supposed to make on Winton Way and Broadway and also
No,
Atwater Boulevard?
totally unrelated.
What's the projected date that we'll be doing that project?
We'll have to come back to the city council, but they have to be approved on a ROPS, and right now the earliest ROPS they could be on is probably going to be the one in July of 2015.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions of item number 4? Okay. Is there questions of the audience in item number 4 in the consent calendar? They wish to come up and comment? Then I'll entertain a motion to approve item number 4, property disposition procedures.
Second.
I didn't have a motion.
Oh, I thought you made a motion.
No,
sorry.
I entertained, I'm sorry.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, you'll make the motion. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Moved by Mr. Joe Rivero. Do I have a second on that 4? Second?
I'll second the motion.
Second by Jeff. Thank you. Okay, any further questions? Call for the question.
Mooneyham,
Yes.
Jeff Rivero,
Yes.
Bergman,
Yes.
Joe Rivero,
Yes.
Fall.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, then we have item number 6, and that is Public Works Director Ferretta.
Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, from time to time, as you know, the city accumulates several pieces of equipment that are deemed unusable any longer, whether it be police vehicles, other equipment in the Public Works Department. And for that reason, we are asking that that you allow the city to approve a consignment agreement in the form approved by the city attorney with Capital Auctions, Inc. of Salida, California, and authorizing and directing the city manager to execute the agreement on behalf of the city. We're also asking that you declare the items that are indicated in Exhibits A and B as surplus property in the staff report. And we'd like you to authorize the disposition of surplus property through Capital Auctions, Inc. of Salida, California. In the event that you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them for you at this time.
Okay, Mr. Jeff Rivero, do you have questions of Mr. Ferretta?
I was going to ask, is there any chance that we could pull off the yellow fire truck and see if we can go to sell that on Interscola first before we put it on the surplus list? Is that
Fire
what-
Chief Pimentel is here, and he could probably answer that question better than I could. From what I understand, they did attempt to sell that piece of equipment over the course of the last year and a half or so, and unfortunately were unsuccessful in doing so, but I'll let Chief Pimentel answer that question. He can probably do a better job than I can.
The reason I'm asking is, the last time I asked for the fire truck to be put on Interscola, and I was told it was, but it was not, in fact.
Interscola, I'm not sure if it was
It's an online auction. You can start your bid off, and if you don't get what you want, you don't have to sell it.
Yeah, we put it on several, Craigslist, other websites. Scott Phillips, the captain there, did that for several months, and it actually took about a year. Finally, somebody wanted to buy it, and we were in the process of selling it, but the individual came in some financial issues and wasn't able to purchase the truck. So now it's been sitting there, and we're just trying to figure out. And I believe that with this surplus, with this company, we can actually set a price, which I would like to set at the same price that we approved on months ago. And if it doesn't get sold at that price, we get the truck back.
Do we have a list of the prices that we're asking?
The truck last was being approved was for $6,000.
Do we have a list of all these items and how much we're going to be asking?
No, sir.
Councilman Bergman?
I just wanted to ask Mr. Fred, is this not an auction?
Councilman Bergman, it is a public auction.
Okay.
It's formally owned by Ernst and Associates. It's now been taken over by a new company called Capital Auctions. All of the same land is being utilized. The person that bought it has been in the auction business for several years and is pretty confident that many of these things can sell. Unfortunately, some of the items, especially if the vehicle, in terms of vehicles that aren't running, those will likely have to be sold for scrap at one of our local metal recycling firms, because there's just no value there, according to the owner of the auctioneer company.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Okay. Any questions? Councilman Joe Rivera?
And the auction will be held in Modesto, or is it,
It's in Modesto, yeah,
Okay,
right off of the Highway 99 freeway. Right as you enter Salida, you'll see it on the left-hand side, and there's several pieces of equipment and vehicles there as well.
and what's the date? If we approve this, is there a set time? that you plan
The
on?
auctions are on the first and third Sundays, I believe, of every month. So these items may not sell on the first day. You know, they'll probably be there for a while, perhaps, depending on what is there. So it's not costing us anything to have them on the lot to sell.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? I just think I commend you for we've wanting to work to try to get all of these pieces of equipment categorized and onto the surplus lists, and so I commend you and your staff and Chief Pimentel and his staff because as it says in the report, it gives you more room for your items that are being used. So thank you very much, because I knew it was quite a task to put it together. Council, any other questions? Okay, then I'll entertain a motion to approve item number 6. Councilman Jeff Rivera.
I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Chief City Manager Petro. No, it was about a year and a half ago I asked him to look into this matter, and he's had his hands full, but he still came through, so thank you very much. And staff, whoever else was involved in this, to put this together for us, so appreciate you taking that step forward.
You going to make a motion then, sir?
Make a motion to approve item number
6.
6.
Sir. Yes.
Second.
Second. I forgot to ask the audience if anybody wanted to come up and comment on this. Seeing none, I have a motion on the floor. I have a second, and I have Councilman Joe Rivero.
Yeah, I just would like Pat to inform us of when it is set up, because I've gone down there a few times to the Modesto location, and so I'd just like to view what's taking place when we go to sell them. So if you could give us the dates when you do put it together.
Based on if this is approved tonight, I'll likely be contacting the auction company tomorrow to get some type of a schedule. The actual auction days are the first and third Saturdays of each month, not Sundays. I apologize for that mistake.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Jeff Rivero?
I was also going to ask Pat, if you wouldn't mind, Mr. Freda, can you shoot an email to us stating what our asking prices are for the items?
It's probably, we asked him about that. The only vehicle that we had discussed in regards to asking prices was the 1983 Grumman fire truck at around $6,000. The other stuff, I mean, it's hard for me personally to put a value on it. You know, perhaps I can work with the auction company. I did ask him if we did come up with a value where we didn't want to go under, if we could put what they call a reserve on any of these items, and he said that would be no problem. It's just finding that number, you know, to do so.
And excuse me, but my understanding in the auction, if you feel that something is, you know, that's, you can pull it back. Is that correct? If you feel that it's valued more than what the auction is giving to you?
That's a good question, Mayor. I do not know the answer to that at this point in time, but I can definitely find that out, you know, for you and report back to the council.
I just thought that was the way, but that's fine. Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, we have a motion on the floor. We have a second. We ready to call for the question? Call for the question.
Berkman?
Yes.
Mooneyham?
Yes.
Joe Rivero?
Yes.
Jeff Rivero?
Yes.
Fall?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, Public Works person, tell us about our water ordinance and what we've been doing to inform the public and everything, please.
Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, members of the public, as you know, the City Council recently amended Chapter 13.13 of the Atwater Municipal Code. What that did was restrict the use of irrigation for your outdoor lawn and your outdoor plants. So what was approved was that even numbered addresses will be able to irrigate their lawns 3 days a week, and those days are Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. The even and odd numbered addresses are assigned watering days on Sundays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. No watering at all will take place on Mondays. And also there's restrictions on the times that you're allowed to water your lawns, and that is anywhere after 7 p.m. And not after 10 a.m. So during the hours of 7 p.m. and 10 a.m. are on your scheduled days for watering are the days that you would be allowed to do so. Public Works Department, since this has been in place, has been receiving numerous calls every day regarding alleged water wasters. We're trying our best to go to every site that is turned in by residents and neighbors and other folks, people driving by. There are consequences to overwatering. You will receive a warning, a written warning on your first offense. A subsequent offense of the same nature will get you a $50 fine, and then a second offense will get you a $75 fine, and then any subsequent offense to that will get you a $100 fine within 1 year of the initial warning given. Unfortunately, in our water department, we do not have any what you might call water policemen to go out and enforce these. We're basically using our water maintenance workers to do the enforcement. And obviously, they have water breaks to deal with, shut-off notices to deal with, delinquent turn-ons and shut-offs to deal with. So makes it difficult just to put all those resources on, obviously, on the enforcement of this. We're hoping that the public voluntarily offers to abide by the new ordinance. We've tried our best to get the word out. The police cadets in Atwater have recently, in the last couple of weeks, have given a flyer, such as the one that the mayor held up, to every residential customer, including apartment complexes that we have. I'm not quite sure where they're at on that. I think they're nearly done doing that. We have put the information in the city newsletter each month, yet we're still not getting the compliance that we would like to get, obviously. It's going to be a hard deal. I think some people still may not know, and unfortunately, I think some people just don't care. And that's kind of a bad thing, obviously. We are trying, and we're accepting all the phone calls and all the help that you can definitely give us as a council and as the public to help us through this process and to help educate the citizens of Atwater. Any questions? I'd be happy to answer them for you.
The interim public works director? I just want to say, I think you've been working with different people, like if they have, we have a lot of in-ground sprinklers that are different ages, and some of them, they turn them on, and then they break, and they go inside, and then they flood all over, so to get all of the in-ground sprinkler systems back into, and then if anybody has any running things in their, the house, like their toilets or their waters, or I think our water department has gone out and helped with those different things.
Our water department is actually, when time permits, they've actually, in the last month or so, have already helped 3 or 4 folks who were unable to program their irrigation controllers to accommodate the watering schedule. So we've been making an effort to do that as well as needed and as time permits.
Any questions of Mr. Ferretta? City Manager? Okay. Then I'll entertain a motion to, in the public. Is there anybody that wishes to comment? What? You don't need a motion for 11? Oh, okay. We don't need a motion for 11. Oh, I have a man who wishes to comment. Mr. Wallace.
Hi, Wayne Wallace, 1653 Van Terrace. My neighborhood watch people, me, adjust all our neighbors' sprinklers. I can't adjust my own, so I pay my gardener. I have a question for the city attorney. Is it against anything? We have trouble with water, and I know, like today was Monday, and I had to go to Merced. I mean, I thought it was water day. To put something in the paper and say, these addresses, do you follow where I'm going with this? In other words, I mean, it's embarrassing to somebody to have their address and name. Well, what's wrong with it there? Councilman Bergman?
Well, the city can post notices of properties that are subject to code enforcement in a variety of contexts. So I think under most circumstances, you probably could. You're saying post the addresses of properties that were found to be in violation?
These people in Atwater did not follow direction. Right. You know, and all you're doing is just putting an address down, and
I'm not aware of any restriction on it. We'd have to take a closer look at it just to be sure, but my off-the-cuff answer is there's probably no problem in doing that.
Well, I think if the newspaper can do it, you know.
You just got some publishing costs, you know.
Well, there's no publishing costs for a little article like that.
Thank you, Mr.
What else did I have?
Pardon me.
Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I just thought ideal flashed through.
Thank you. Any other comments on the water? Okay, was just a report. It wasn't part of the actual where we have to vote, so we will move on then to item number 12.
Reconsideration of City Council action of June 23rd, 2014, conditionally approving 1, the First Amendment to Power Purchase Agreement, and 2, the lease agreement with Casey Family for sublease location of solar facilities.
Well, the staff, thank you. The staff report is in your packet, and happy to answer any questions that may arise. This is up for full reconsideration of all actions taken. Staff's concern is, as set out in the staff report, with the possibility or potential for well 15 to be shut down at any time during the 20-year life of this project. The concern is that the city is still obligated to purchase all of the power generated from the Casey property, as with the well 15 site. And so with the risk of that being on the city as opposed to being on Conergy or on the investor, staff from senior management and myself are not comfortable with that level of risk associated with the Casey transaction. Obviously, you know that the well 15 project will go forward as per the existing power purchase agreement. And so Conergy has indicated that they're prepared to go forward with this project as just the well 15 project or the well 15 project plus the Casey property. And for the reasons that I laid out in the staff report, staff is more comfortable with them proceeding with only the well 15 portion and leaving the Casey portion out of the project. And again, this is a business term more than anything else. It's a question of how much risk the council wants the city to incur with respect to this matter. My rough calculations show that the amount of power generated from the Casey property, if we are to follow the scenarios laid out by Conergy, would amount to somewhere between $120,000 and $200,000 per year. That's the Casey portion of the power generated from that site. And again, if you can't use it, there are some potential means of passing that on to other projects under AB 2466. But there are a lot of holes in that. There are a lot of potential concerns that I have with that, and I'll go through those quickly at this time. AB 2466 allows local agencies like Atwater that generate power at one location to recoup some of the cost of that power if they use it at another location. And so in this case, if well 15 were to go down, the argument goes, you could transfer that power that's generated from the Casey property to another property and essentially force PG&E to buy it and pay you back under AB 2466. Looking at that program in some more detail, the city would still be responsible for setup costs, maintenance, metering and interconnection costs, which could be significant, and any changes in the metering program that go forward in the future. In addition, only the power generating costs can be credited, not the conveyance costs or the standby charges, and so therefore you're not going to be able to recoup all of your the money that you would have to pay to the investor under the Conergy proposal. Credits that don't get used by the end of the year can be wiped out, and so the city could be able to recover some but not all of its investment. And looking at the program on the PG&E website, this legislation was enacted more than 5 years ago, and to date there's not a single municipality or any other user that is actually participating in that program, and probably for the reasons, some of the reasons that I've outlined for you tonight. So under the existing program, the existing power purchase agreement, the city is obligated to move forward with that project, and my understanding is that plans are being submitted for that at this time, and staff certainly doesn't want to disrupt or interfere in any way with that effort, but does feel that the addition of the Casey property represents a significant risk and is probably not counterbalanced by the potential rewards. Again, that is a value judgment on the part of the staff, and City Council, looking at the numbers themselves, may feel differently, and certainly that's why it is in front of you tonight without a recommendation, but more as a commentary by staff. The recommendation is that the city council reconsider its action of June 23rd and then make decisions to either affirm or deny the conditional approvals that were given in June. So happy to answer any questions, and certainly following any public comment may add to my remarks. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions of the city attorney before I open up the public comments? Councilpersons? Councilpersons, so we have no questions of the city attorney by our city council?
Well, in a minute, but go ahead.
Now's the time, Councilman Jeff Rivero, if you're going to ask questions, because this is the time that the council asks questions before I open it up. Okay, that's fine. We will open it up now to the public. The public, if you wish to come forward and comment on this, please do so.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, City Council members. Jim Price, 3467 Village Woods. With respect to the Casey portion of this item, in reviewing this, I noticed that, and City Attorney can maybe expound on it more, but termination for convenience is not included in this agreement. Is that correct? To me, I understand that that's a normal item that is included in government agreements and contracts, especially under a lease agreement such as this. And when I read the termination portions right there, it still showed exposure for the city of Atwater, and it gave me a little bit of a concern that if we don't have that termination for convenience clause written into the contract, the city has got a lot of exposure, and we're all going to be winding up paying for it for a very long period of time. So that, aside from the portions for the solar, which I have some minor concerns with, but what really concerns me is obligating to a contract for a land lease that doesn't have that certain provision to it. Thank you.
City Attorney, do you wish
Well,
to
yeah, and again,
comment?
through the chair, I would just
Yes.
respond that the lease arrangement is important to the investor because the investor is going to be spending a lot of money to put this solar installation on this property. And the way the power purchase agreement is structured, in the event that the city no longer has a need for the power generated at that particular site, the city must still nonetheless purchase all the power that's generated from that facility. And that's why we have the concern that we have. There is no ability for the city to terminate the lease or the power purchase agreement just for its own convenience, because the expectations of the investor, which are, in a business sense, quite reasonable, is that he or she will be paid back for their investment over the life of the project by a purchase from the city of all of that power. So there's no right or wrong. It's just in this case, it's more or less it's a business decision. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
Eric Lee, 1199 Atwater Boulevard. To clarify, we will be purchasing all power produced from the solar panels from Conergy, correct?
Yes, and again, and if we can direct the questions through the chair, but I'm happy to
Yes.
answer them. Yes.
I'm sorry.
All of the power that's generated under the power purchase agreement must be purchased by the city of Atwater. And there is a table, there's information that's been provided to the city showing approximately how much power will be generated from the well 15 installation just by itself and the well 15 installation with the Casey property. But if the city council decides to approve the amendment to the power purchase agreement and add the Casey property as a site that's covered, then as a covered site under that agreement, the city must purchase all of the power that's generated from that facility. So that's a long answer to your question. I should have just said yes.
Yeah, but basically what I'm asking is if the system produces 1.8 megawatts and we use 940,000 kilowatts, the excess power that's produced, we still purchase that, correct? But we can sell that back to PG&E.
There are programs in place that allow you to recover or to sell back the generating cost of that electricity, but not the other components of it under AB 2466. Now, the breakdown of that is unclear to me. I'm not into as deep as that, but there's a portion of it that the city can recover. But under the power purchase agreement, and I assume maybe the representatives of Conergy can fill us in on that.
But it's up to PG&E to determine the cost that they will pay for that excess power that we sell back to them. Is that not correct?
Well, it's based on your generating cost. So they have to pay what it costs you to generate that power. And so the city would receive, the seller of that would receive their generating costs back. Okay? So, you know, to bottom line it, you know, if Conergy were taking the risk of the well 15 shutdown or generating way more power than is needed on that site, and Conergy were to take that power and wheel it, if you use a water term, wheel it someplace else and sell it, and the city was absolved from any responsibility for paying for that power, this would be a different transaction. But it isn't structured that way. It's structured where the city is responsible to go find somebody else to use it or to use it on a city project, which is possible. It is certainly allowable. But there, you know, as I said, there are costs associated with it.
But we have other wells that are going to have solar arrays too, is that correct? Or just one well?
I think under the agreement, there's only one well site at this point.
And we have a lift station on Industry?
That is not currently part of the PPA. Am I right? I believe it's not part of the PPA.
City Manager, do you know?
It came before the Planning Commission.
Well, it came before the Planning Commission as a site plan approval, but there's nothing in the Planning Commission's action, nor could there be, that would obligate the city to add it to the PPA, because only the council can take that action.
Okay.
My understanding is, and you might correct me if I'm wrong, that the sites that the solar, and Conergy, why don't you come up and give us a little hand here, since it's your thing.
Well, it just seems we have a lot of different
Right.
sites and a lot of different numbers, and I'm trying to narrow
Well,
down to
that's
exactly
correct,
what we're doing.
But what I'm trying to make a little clear, and maybe I'm mudding it up, but the total solar agreement that we entered into with Conergy was that, at the time we signed it, was that we would do well 15, we would do the, out here in the City Hall, and we would do the community center, and possibly do the USP
And
well
Federal Way,
site,
correct.
possibly. But those were the sites that we had agreed in the contract. Is that correct? Okay, thank you. So now the little second thing comes in with the Casey lease.
Correct.
Because we have that small area, so then by leasing the Casey property, that would have expanded the solar field. But now we're running into some problems with us having, you know, anyway, long story, that's where we're at. And so now we have, whether we want to put solar on that Casey property, but then we're only leasing it, so then if the well goes down, we still have to pay what they generate off of the Casey property for 20 years of $150,000 to $2,000 a year. Is that correct, sir?
You're
Generally?
generally correct.
Yeah,
The city would be able, the city has two obligations with respect to this action tonight. One is to pay lease payments to the Casey family. We've been able to negotiate with the Casey family and say, look, in the event something unforeseen happens, we lose a well, we lose well 15, we can terminate the Casey lease early by paying the balance of that year's rent, whenever that happens on a calendar year basis, plus one more year's rent. And then at that point, the city's responsibility to make payments to the Casey family under the lease go away. What isn't going to go away is the obligation to pay for the power that's generated at that site. Now again, as we've indicated, there may be a way for the city to wheel that someplace else, use it someplace else, get paid for it, but at best that's probably a break-even proposition, and in all likelihood it would not be a break-even proposition because you're only going to be able to recover your generating costs. So that's why staff says with respect to this project, and it's different if you look at it for the council's benefit, it is different when you look at it in terms of the community center or the city hall site, those sites aren't going anywhere. They're not dependent on something coming out of the ground in order for them to be sustainable. A well site is a little bit different, and that's probably why we're looking at the well site transaction a little bit differently.
Right, but you have to look at it from my perspective, and he'll probably explain that a little better than I do. When I look at industry and I see a wastewater lift pump and I see another pump out in that area, and I also see where it's listing 19 acres, I'm assuming that that may supplant the Federal Way property, which we'd be losing, and also supplant the Casey property under the lease, which we probably don't want to go forward with. And that's what I'm looking at when I see those addresses come up. And so hopefully, we'll get some explanation on that to see where we're going with this.
Thank you.
Thank
Yes,
you.
excuse me. Okay. Right. Okay, is there anybody else in the public who'd like to come up and speak before Conergy comes? Okay, so we'll then, Conergy? Mr. Simons? No,
David.
that's wrong.
David Vincent.
Vincent, my apologies.
Yeah. So now is there a specific question that's on the table that you want me to answer, or are we?
That's council persons, do we have any questions of Mr. Jeff Rivero? Okay, pardon me. Okay, so since the community has stopped, we have that done, we can bring it back to the council now, and we will ask questions of this young man, and then we will go from there. Let's ask questions, because this is the important person before we make the decision. And so, Mr. Jeff Rivero, you are the first person.
I was going to ask you, because it's under my interpretation that the PUC demands by law that PG&E swallow up whatever we produce. So if the well 15 went down, PG&E still has to accept our energy that the solar provides, and how that would benefit us, not that we would get this $22 million savings, but it's my understanding that we put it back online in almost not virtual metering, but virtual metering style, where we would be able to purchase energy at other places in our town. And city manager, if you know, or somebody else, I think our correct me if I'm wrong then, I believe our utility or PG&E bill is about $2 million in the city of Atwater. So correct me if I'm wrong on there. But if I was to guess $2 million, so what would be produced at well 15?
Excuse me, Mr. Rivero, go ahead.
That's about close.
Okay,
Close? Right.
thank you.
Thank you, sir. So what we put online would give us credits to be able to pay anywhere else where this $2 million bill is being created. So that way, we wouldn't be getting the outstanding deal that I'm seeing here, but at the same time, we wouldn't be losing anything because we're getting the credits to be able to pay at other sites. So that's what my question is. Am I correct in that, or am I off base?
Well, yeah, that's a lot more than a yes or no question. So, I mean, it's important to realize what we're talking about here is doomsday scenario, right? If the well goes down, right? And we're trying to predict the future. Will it happen? Will it not? In 20 years, if well 15 never goes down, people are going to look back at this and go, why on earth didn't they move forward with this? If well 15 goes down next year, then we're in the doomsday scenario and we're in the panic. The PUC regulates that any net energy metering connections for systems where you're using energy, they have to buy back that energy at the full retail rate that they normally would. But when you look at the doomsday scenario and you start talking about, as Tom talked about, 2466, it's different. 2466 is that one of those options that we could take advantage of should the well go down, and now we're actually generating more than what was being used on site. So it's important to realize the design of all of these systems. We took the historical usage off of all the meters and designed the system at a level below what the usage is. So should the doomsday scenario not occur out there, the system is designed to produce under what the actual usage is off of that well. So you wouldn't ever run into the scenario of having the way more production than what you're using unless, again, we get into the doomsday scenario when we shut the well off, we do whatever. AB 2466 which Tom was explaining, allows the city to generate at any point and use credits elsewhere, but it's not full retail credits. It's the generation portion of that full bill, and the last time I looked, which was a while ago, for the rates that you're currently on, it's about like 65, 70% is what the generation component is of the full retail rate. So for instance, if you were looking at like the A6 rate, which is the solar-friendly rate, where you're generating peak at, it's like 50 some cents, you would get credits at more around 35 cents, somewhere in that, and then those credits can be applied to other locations. But again, it's that doomsday scenario, right? If you guys had a crystal ball, you'd probably be elsewhere. If the well goes down next year, it's a great decision not to move forward with that. If that well goes down in whatever, 10 years, 15 years, it's probably close to break even. If it lasts for 20 years, this is the biggest no-brainer you have out there. Because the Casey lease is only, and Tom, you'd have to know the exact numbers, but you're talking about $225,000, somewhere in there, over 20 years. The adding of this expansion, by the numbers that we ran, has a savings starting in year one. If it's like around 55, 60,000, somewhere in that. So you're talking about if that well's in place for 5 years, right? The savings you're going to have is going to be $300-some thousand. You've already paid for the Casey lease and you're behind it. So really, you know, you do have some doomsday scenarios that are out there. So if the well goes down is the big question that's out there. We also put in that, the last time we were here, we listed the several other ways that you could. 2466 is one of them. Relocation is one of them. You know, if it goes down in year 17, you might want to use the solar panels on other facilities. I mean, there's a lot of different things that you can do. But AB 2466, as I noted in the presentation a month and a half ago, it's not a program that's frequently used because the direct tie, which we've designed for this project, is much more lucrative for cities. And that's why we didn't design an AB 2466 project for you. We did all direct ties at all the locations. So does that answer the question?
Thank you. Okay, I have Mr. Bergman.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Vincent, I just, I've got a sheet here that was updated today with some costs on it. And in the first year, it says utility costs, and this is just the existing project without the expansion or lift station. And it says the first year avoided utility cost would be $294,405, and the estimated PPA payment would be $231,574. I'm just curious, who did you consult with to come up with these numbers and consult with to come up with the size of field for that station?
The savings rate?
Well, I see the savings rate, but who did you consult with when you came up with the decision to build a solar site that size, to produce that much power?
So as I was mentioning earlier, it's all based on the city's usage. So we actually got all the usage from the city and looked at the Well 15 site, figured out what your historical usage is on that particular facility, and then we designed the system to where it comes, to where we don't plan on overproducing on the well itself. So the design of the system is actually based on the city's historical usage at that location.
Well, I'm a little confused because I've got the last month, 6 months utility bills, and we've got a cost for just Well 15 for the last 6 months of $11,957, $11,221, $8,041, $73.41, $95.17, and $9,046. That comes up to $57,123. It's safe to say if we double that, it's going to be a yearly cost. That's not even half of what the estimated cost is going to be to you.
Yes,
that makes no sense to me whatsoever.
Which months did you grab?
January, February, March, April, May, and July.
Yeah, so
you missed June.
4 of those 6 are your winter sessions through PG&E. PG&E's winter session rates are extremely lower than your summer session rates. If you look at your historical bills for your summer session rates, they're almost always higher than your winter session rates. But what we've done is we took the exact usage that was given to us by PG&E, that gets plugged into a program that's a third-party program, a program that we do not administer, but a program that's been out for over a decade. That determines what the bill is going to be moving forward based on the current rates, including PG&E's rate increases that they had on May 1st. And it predicts what the actual usage is, or what the amount's going to be, then lesses what the solar is going to do.
Well, I've got the most current bill, which was for July, which I would think it'd be safe to say that that's a very heavy use month, and it was 15,182. That still doesn't bring the numbers anywhere close to what we're going to have to pay just for the existing well site, not including the Casey site. So I see, after doing this research, I see no sense in even moving on with the Casey site, but these numbers just do not add up to me. I'm not a mathematician, but I don't think it takes one to look at these numbers and say it just doesn't add up.
Do, Mr. Mooneyham, you have not had to comment in this period. Do you wish to comment?
The only thing I want to say, and it was one of the main reasons that I brought the issue up to begin with, is I keep hearing the word doomsday, doomsday, doomsday 6 times in the last 10 minutes. Knowing the age of that well, I think it's a very real possibility that something can go wrong with that well site. And I don't want to paint it as a worst case scenario, because it's a very real possibility that something could happen within that 20-year time period. And that's the only thing I wanted to point out.
Thank you. Mr. Joe Rivera, you have not had an opportunity to comment.
My question is PG&E one of their experts invited to come here for any comment too? Because I know there's a lot of talking about the PG&E rates and what might happen. Did our staff invite them, one of the PG&E experts? I guess. No.
Yeah, one good comment too, just to address to Councilman Mooneyham's comment, is it's definitely possible when you have older equipment that older equipment goes out. But you got to remember, when you're talking about wells, the likely scenario of if the equipment goes out, you either drill a new hole or you use the existing hole that's there. The real doomsday part of this is the aquifer being gone, not that a pump is going to go out. So if if realistically, if that well stopped producing, the first thing the city would normally do is look to see if the well is still good. And if the well is still good, they'd put new equipment in. If the well's not good, they would look at maybe digging it deeper. And I think the big worry a month and a half ago wasn't so much that the water was going to be gone, it was going to be, will there be contaminants in the water that create the quality of that well to have to be taken out? So number one on our possible remedies is taking that same site and drilling a deeper well if you need to get into a deeper aquifer, or again, whatever the case may be. But Councilman Mooneyham is definitely correct. Older equipment does tend to go out, and then typically it's replaced and you move on.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we've all had opportunities for questions first time around, so now it's the time, sir. Jeff Rivera, you have, but I'm interested if there's anyone that now I would entertain a motion, because we've all had the opportunity to speak one time around before I recognize Jeff Rivera. Are we willing to continue on with the discussion? Okay, Jeff Rivera.
I was going to ask, on that well site, this would be a question for our city staff. How many well sites have we re-drilled on that well site? So how many times have we had to re-drill on a current well site? I believe we're supposed to be doing that on Green Sands. I was wondering if there was any other sites.
In regards to well 15 on Commerce, I don't think that well site's been re-drilled, and we are in the process of rehabbing a well site on Green Sands, which is well 20. That's the only one at this point, to my knowledge, that we're going to be working on in the near future.
We will be drilling on that site. And what number is that, 20?
It's well 20 on Green Sands.
So what is the process to re-drill on 20? What have you had to do to get permits or what have you to re-drill on 20? What's the process you've gone through?
We're just, right now, I mean, Mr. McBride might be able to inform you a little bit more than he, but we are in the process of working with the city's contract engineer to get that process started. There is money identified in the capital improvement budget for 2014-15. So it would start with some engineering, obviously.
Okay. Mr. Bergman?
Well, you had just said you were ready for a motion, so I was
Yes.
just going to make the motion, so.
Okay.
I'd like to move we deny the conditional approval of the First Amendment to the power purchase agreement and lease agreement with the Casey family and take such actions as it deems appropriate.
I'll second that, and then I will recognize Councilman Joe Rivero.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just had one more question, too. As far as the results of the readings that have come from there, are they substantially safe as far as the tests that were done at the well site? Or are we reaching a limit right where there might be an arsenic level or some other level that's close to it? Because I kept hearing, it's potential for doomsday scenario. So I'd like to know what the readings were from the well. Does it seem fairly safe to drink right now? I'd like to ask staff.
From what I understand, our chief water operator had recently put out the consumer report on all the water that's coming out of the city wells, and not one of them, to my understanding, were there any alarming items that came out of that at this point in time.
So as far as
I could come back and let you know for sure, but I don't think there was anything alarming. We would definitely know that right now if there was.
I hadn't heard anything else, but I wanted to make it clear to the public too that there's no real concern there. Anyway, so as far as the doomsday scenario that I was hearing about.
Thank you. Jeff Rivero,
I had
one more
a question for Mr. Terpstra. That would be a legal question on the contract for Conergy. Do we need to approval of language needed to conform to the current IRS regulations that we need to take care of?
I would think that as part of the motion, you could direct staff to bring back an amendment to that aspect of it if it's deemed appropriate. And we have not fully gone through that with Conergy at this point. But if it's something that's beneficial to both sides, we'll definitely bring that back for council consideration.
So we don't have to take care of that today?
No.
Okay. Then I'd like to have the call for the question, and I'd like to have the motion read by the clerk, please. Motion by Councilman Bergman.
The motion is to deny the conditional approval of the First Amendment to the power purchase agreement and the lease agreement with the Casey family, and to take such actions as it deems appropriate.
And I seconded that motion. Okay.
Could you repeat that one more time, please?
Repeat it again, please.
The motion is to deny conditional approval of the First Amendment to the power purchase agreement, as well as the lease agreement with the Casey family, and to take such actions as it deems appropriate.
And I think it makes sense if we would say direct staff to take such action, because we're gonna have to get together with Conergy and work with them on the size of the existing facility as well. We heard tonight that we want to make sure it's sized for the actual use at that site, and it sounds like there's a potential that it might be a little large for that site, so we need to probably just look at that. Those are the kinds of actions that we see as we partner moving forward with Conergy on this thing.
Okay. Ready to call for the question?
With that amendment, you changed your motion?
I'll go ahead and amend the motion
Okay.
to contain that language.
Okay, well then, thank you, and then I will second that motion also. Okay.
Joe Rivero?
Yes.
Mooneyham?
Just real quick, if I may, as a municipality, we're in the business of mitigating risk for 28,000 constituents, and I deem this as having just a little bit too much risk. So, can you read the motion again? I'm sorry, just one more time.
The motion is to deny the conditional approval of the First Amendment to the power purchase agreement, and to also deny the lease agreement with the Casey family, and to direct staff to take such actions as it deems appropriate.
Yes.
Bergman?
Yes.
Jeff Rivero?
Yes.
Fall?
Yes.
Motion carries.
We're going to recess.
2 down to 1, which is allowed under the government code. The reasons for that are listed in the staff report. Basically, it comes down to the amount of time spent by staff to prepare for council meetings, both to prepare and wind up after council meetings. And with the, as we saw at the budget hearing, city staff has gone down dramatically in the last couple of years. And so the number of people to do that job just aren't there. And be able to respond to requests for information, assistance, applications, and so forth from the public. So as a cost-saving measure, staff is recommending that the city council meet once a month on the second Monday of each month, and then allow them to staff to focus on ongoing projects. In addition, as to the second proposed ordinance, at the city council meeting on July 14th, City Council Member Bergman requested staff to prepare an agenda item for consideration by the City Council, which would combine the existing planning, Parks and Recreation, and traffic commissions into one commission, which we very creatively called the
Community Development and Resources Department.
There you go. Community Development, yeah, there it is. Community Development and Resources Commission, which would combine those functions, consolidate those commissions, and allow for staff to, again, focus time and attention to other deserving efforts. And so with that in mind, the two ordinances are in your packet that would basically implement this and set up a procedure for consolidating those existing commissions into one commission. In looking at this, I know there's some concern on the first ordinance about doing this for a set period of time and then revisiting it. It's something that you could do even without this language in the ordinance. So if the City Council believes that we should make this a permanent step, subject to being revisited at any time, as with any ordinance by the council, you could certainly do that. And I'm available to answer any questions that you have with regard to both ordinances.
I myself would like to kind of divide this up into two parts. I'd like to first talk about the city council meetings, and then we discuss that, and then the commissions. I think that that's an important, because we need to divide those up. And I'm going to be the first one to speak on this, because this I happen to have play a major role in developing the packets for each meeting, and we have, with our staff, as the city attorney said, has been reduced. We used to have four people. Gina put the packet together, and now we're down to 2.5. Yeah, 2.5. And then we have to, all of the department heads have to bring their staff reports in. They have to be in by a certain time, and in order for us to get them run off, in order for us to get them corrected, in order for us to get them passed by the city attorneys. And so consequently, our different department heads that's their primary thing, is to be doing packets instead of the other things. So like our city community development people, they if we had one meeting a month, then they could do straight on that meeting, get that done, and then move. Then the rest of the month they could do their other things. The same way with Public Works, the same with all our departments. So I think it's a good plus. Just to be very honest with you, we're wearing our staff down. We have fantastic staff. There is no better staff than what we have and what we're privileged to have here in the city of Atwater. But these young people can only do so much. When putting this packet together, the clerk worked till 11 o'clock on Tuesday, and then it was 11 o'clock on Wednesday, then we put it together on Thursday, we worked again to about 8 o'clock, and so just to get this one, because the packet has to be perfect. There can be no mistakes, no anything, and it has to pass the city attorney's preview. So it's real important. So I think due to the number of people we have on our staff, the number of people we have that I think at the present time, the one meeting a month would be, and the first meeting, the second Monday of each month right now would be the thing that we need to do for our council meetings. Now, after we try this for a while, we find out that it doesn't work, then we always can go back and adjust and whatever. But right now, we have to think of our staff and keeping them, because we're doing a fantastic job, but we just need to keep these people hale and hearty. Those are my feelings. Do we have any other comments from the council persons? No questions from the council persons regarding this matter before I open it up? Mayor Pro Tem Mooneyham?
How do we arrive at the $21,000 savings?
City Clerk?
I calculated staff time to prepare the agendas and the minutes for the follow-up, the time to run the packets, and that's for the city council and the 3 commissions, plus recording costs, that would be cut in half, and then also city attorney travel time. And I believe it's a conservative number as well.
Any other questions? The city attorney or any of the people up here before I open it up? Mayor Pro Tem Mooneyham?
As part of the staff report, did we solicit any citizen feedback at all?
No, no, sorry. City attorney?
Yeah, as the person that just wrote this, I'm not aware of any citizens outreach effort on this. I think that's part of what we're going to try to accomplish by allowing some public comment on this in a little bit. And certainly no need to, you don't have to take action on it tonight. You can take some public comment and deliberate if that's what the council wants to do.
Councilman Joe Rivero?
Yes, so instead of having a packet this large, we'll have a packet maybe twice the size, and that's going to save staff time. How? Because they're still putting together the staff packets. And when we're talking about savings, I'm still curious about that, because you're doing the same amount of work. I can see you're not putting 2 separate ones together, so there's a little time savings there. But when I'm hearing 21,000 savings, so I guess that 21,000 wasn't just city council. You're talking about the other commissions too. And when you're figuring that, is that eliminating the other commissions so that they're one super one, and that therefore you're saving money in that way? Okay, I was curious of how you're coming up with those numbers. Okay, thank you.
Councilman Bergman, do you have any comments? Councilman Jeff Rivero, do you have any comments? Okay. Then I will open it up then to the community or the public and have them come forward and speak. Okay, now when we speak, if we could break it up into 2 parts, because I know Mr. Murphy is interested in the super committee, I think. I could be mistaken. So make a comment on the once a month city council meeting and the super committee. Okay, please, if you don't mind. Thank you.
That's fine.
Go ahead.
Okay, Jim Murphy, 262 Juniper Avenue. My understanding of one of the reasons for the commissions is to get citizens' input and advice for the city council. If you combine everybody into one super commission, you're going to have a select few that have a little bit of knowledge about a lot of things, rather than a large pool of people that are fairly well versed in the subjects that they deal with regularly. I think by having the super commission, as well as the once a month council meeting, you're going to be insulating yourselves as an elected body, more so from the city people. I don't think that's ever a good thing to have our elected officials further out of touch with the people. I think having served as the chair of the Parks and Rec Commission for many, many years and as a member before that, I understand the value of having people that deal with one subject, that know what they're talking about to give advice, whether it's taken or not, but at least they're well versed in what they're doing. Let's face it, anybody that has an interest in anything like this has an agenda to some degree. If you have a small commission that's going to be reporting, you're going to have a small agenda that's going to be addressed. You're going to have some people that are going to want more for one area than the other. And I personally think that if you do this, it's going to be a circus. You're going to have people, you're going to have extremely long meetings. When you have the super commission, you're going to have extremely long meetings when you have the council meetings. And I think less is going to get accomplished. And truthfully, the amount of savings we're talking about, I don't think it's worth what it's going to cost. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Jim Price, 3467 Village Woods. You stole my thunder. With respect to the city council meetings, having once a month, I think would be a huge blunder in my estimation. It goes right to the heart of openness and transparency to the public and openness to your government. Twice a month, you're able to come to the city council. Twice a month, you're able to come up and make comments to the public, as everyone knows I am a regular at doing. And you only have 3 minutes. So if you have a once a month meeting, would that mean you would have 30 days to get up and formulate thoughts and have 3 minutes at one city council meeting? I think that's a huge disservice to the public. I also believe that the savings that are being talked about, I think those numbers are skewed. And the money, let's face it, that's tabletop type math. That's not actual money, gee, we've got extra money, let's go spend it someplace else. I think that the city council needs to meet twice a month. I think it's incumbent on the city to afford the openness to the public. It's one of those things that I think, as you said, and I think, Joe, you said, there's going to be a huge, thick packet to this. Nothing is going to be saved in that respect. And those meetings that start at 6 o'clock, I can see them going till midnight. Where's the savings there? You're going to have staff that are going to be here for a very long time. So I think that with respect to the city council meetings, they need to be, and I understand the strain and the overburden that it's putting on staff, but this is something that there's going to need to be some work on and some creativity and thinking outside of the box to make it work in order to keep 2 city council meetings per month. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Judy Bowling, 137 Judy Drive, Atwater. I think it would be a great disservice. People already think there's not enough transparency. I think that we should have the 2 meetings a month. I think that we can find some of the money in different ways. I understand that not all in lieu of was really taken away. If we need to adjust hours, if we need to find some help to put the packets together, staple them or whatever, we could do that. And I don't think that, and I know it's not popular, but I'm going to say it anyway, I don't think a super committee is the answer. I think it takes more input than 5 or 7 people. Not popular. I think that whenever everybody ran for this city council, city clerk, recording secretary, whatever, that those people knew that they were going to be putting in additional hours. When you ran and you were sworn in, that was a part of what you were going to do. And the different departments have been able to have their group, whoever was on their commissions, to have individual input. And not popular, but that's how I feel.
Thank you, Judy.
Okay, let me see if I read this ordinance correct, because I think there's some misconception here. Under Section 1, 2.08010 time, it states, regular meetings of the City Council shall be held on the second Monday of each month through April 30th, 2001. Thereafter, beginning May 1st, 2015, regular meetings of the City Council shall be held on the second and fourth Mondays of each month. So as I read that, that means you're going to have one meeting a month till April 30th, 2015, and then you go to 2 meetings a month after that. Is that correct? So therefore, we're not talking one meeting a month forever if you adopt this. We're only talking for a short period of time to save some money for the city, to save some staff time, and then you're going back to 2 meetings a month. And in that time of those 1 meetings a month, should you deem it necessary to have another meeting, you can call a special meeting. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you very much. It's pretty obvious.
State your name, please.
Wayne Wallace, 1653 Van Terrace. Yeah, I think you ought to try it, but you're going to have to make some changes. I have been on several committees. We met once a month. We did a lot of things. But you have to change the meeting. And all my meetings started at 6, and we were over with at 8. And we made it fit. It's just leadership. But I think you're doing the same thing, you're printing the same thing each month, every 2 weeks. And you're just putting different little things in it. That's not going to take a lot of paperwork. Make the print smaller. Anyway, I just think that it's something, it's worth trying. I know a lot of people don't feel that way, but I do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Eric Lee, 1199 Atwater Boulevard, and I'm also on Parks and Rec Commission. The idea of a super commission, I think, is a good one for a couple of reasons. We all know about the economy of effort and saving money by having one person and one packet instead of 3 secretaries, 3 different packets, 3 different meetings, and 3 different places. We have that meeting once a month, and we are also open to special meetings if they're needed. If the workload increases, we can always go to a special meeting. But what this will allow is the Planning Commission, Traffic, and Parks and Rec to work together so the information will flow through all 3 commissions efficiently and easily. That hasn't always happened in the past. Sometimes things came down to Parks and Rec from planning. Sometimes they did not. Sometimes they didn't go to traffic. I think it's necessary for this city to move forward and to function properly for all 3 of our commissions to know what each other's doing. And the best way to do that is to have 7 commissioners at one time on the dais answering questions from the audience, rather than them having to travel around to 3 different places in Atwater, or 2 different places, depending on where the meetings are held. But I think it would be the efficient way to do things. And like was brought up earlier, if it doesn't work, we can always change it back, but I think it will. Thank you.
Thank you.
Linda Dash, Atwater. I agree with Eric. I sit on the Planning Commission. Our meetings have been 12 minutes, 15 minutes. We had a real long one. It was 21 minutes. And I see staff walk in at 6 o'clock. Sometimes they're dragging in because they've had big projects they've worked on prior to meeting with us. And it's just not fair to them to have to put together a packet, get it to us, then come in and spend 12 minutes, then we go home. So I think we should give it a try, see if it works. I think it was read to you, or you're actually your city attorney put it in the form of an ordinance to give it a try for a year or so. And if it doesn't work, then go back to the old way. But the super committee, I think, would be a good way to start saving a few shillings.
Is there anyone else in the audience who'd wish to comment on this? Seeing none, we'll bring it back then to the council and the dais. And again, I think that we have two definite, city attorney, let me ask you a question before I go around. So now do we want, when we do this, are we going to be, first we'll go with the city council meetings, and then we would go with the super commission, or what, how would that be?
Yeah, you've allowed for public comment. Public has commented on
Right.
both agenda items, for
Right.
both of these items on the same agenda item. So it would make sense to first take action with respect to staff's recommendation on item number 1, which deals with the 2 council meetings versus 1 council meeting. That would be the proposed ordinance number 957. So I think it would be most appropriate for council to take action on that item first, and then take action on the second item.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll start with Mr. Jeff Rivero.
I was going to ask, on our packets for the city council meeting, I'm being told that we're staying late till 10, 11 o'clock at night. Well, if somebody has to turn in their paperwork to be run off and put together as a packet on the Monday prior, there shouldn't be any overtime. There shouldn't be people waiting till late. So I think it's more of a procedural thing that the city needs to take care of, asking for the agenda items to be to the city clerk's office a couple days earlier, so it gives these people a chance to run off our paperwork. And second of all, we can always, if something's forgot or we need to add items later on, we can always have additions to the city council packet. So that way there's no redos, but just additions. So personally, I think that if we changed our policy within the city to have our paperwork having to be turned in on Monday, so it can be run off on Tuesday and Wednesday and put together on Thursday, I think that should give our staff plenty of time. And I am not saying that our staff does not work their tails off, because I'm through here all the time, ladies, and every time I ask for something, it's always there for me, and I appreciate your work. I'm just trying to make things better for you, so that way you don't have to work so late. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, do we have Mr. Joe Rivero? Do you have a comment on this?
Not right at this
Okay,
this
thank
time.
you. Mr. Mooneyham, do you have a comment on this?
The only comment I have regarding the moving from 1 council meeting to 2 is the lack of access that some people may have. However, that being said, I am willing to give it a try for a short term.
Thank you. Mr. Bergman?
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I want to thank everybody for their comments and their concerns. I appreciate everybody standing up and voicing their concerns. Sometimes change is good. Is this going to be the right answer? We don't know. I understand some of you think there's not going to be the contact out there that you have with 2 meetings. One point Mr. Price brought up is, some might think it's small, but the time they're allowed to speak. I personally, especially if we go to this, I think 3 minutes is too short. People need time to speak, and I'd like to see that change. That's something we can address at another time, but this is only a trial, as was brought up, and sometimes things work out, sometimes they don't, but giving it a try, it'll give us a chance to see if it is something beneficial for the council or not. So I personally would like to see us give it a try.
Okay, thank you. And I would like to make a motion that we have regular meetings of, you didn't, I didn't
I said
get
at that
your-
time, yes, Madam
Yes,
Mayor,
you're-
but I
I'm
have
sorry.
a comment
You're
now.
right, you hadn't commented on it. My apologies.
Thank you. No, I just wanted to hear what other people said, because, and I'll give you credit to, Mr. Rivera brought up a very good point about the staff time, about getting the packets there early. And I've been through many times in the past and over the years where there's complaints that they're not there on time, so that's a management problem. We need to address that. So that's something that maybe we'll talk to our city manager, make sure that all departments are getting their packets or all their information there on time, so they're not putting the packets together at the last minute. I know that they were working late at times because they didn't have all the information until the last minute, and that's one of the problems too for keeping people there later. So I think that that's what we need to be looking at before we make any drastic and what I feel somewhat bizarre changes. Another issue too is access to the public. Is we're here two times a month. That's 2 times that people can access us, as far as not individually, but come here and make that public statement right up here. And I think that the more chances they get to come up here and make a public statement, that's their opportunity to put it on the record, not just talk. And we're available, I believe, most of us at all times. But this is your chance to make a public statement on the record, and to reduce it to just 1 time a month, I think is ridiculous. I think if anything, you should go more. But 2 times is the minimum I can see. I don't want to see us limiting the public access. Also, when you have 2 packets worth of materials, somebody who does want to come here and share, they may have to. They may come here at 6 o'clock and not be done till 12, until they get their chance to share. And by that time, what it does is reduces the access to the public, besides the written media, but everybody else who watches on television, by them will turn it off. And so maybe there's an agenda somebody that wants to have hidden from the rest of the public, and then it's not going to be as easily accessed by the people that are viewing on television. So that's another reason why I'm not for this. Another thing is that, the short time. By saying it's a short time shows that you're for it, but you're not really for it, so you can flip-flop one way or another. Now, this council's had some things in the past, and other councils, I suppose, have too, right, where, we're going to do something for a certain group of individuals for a short period of time, and then for a 6-month period. Then it's extended another 6 months. Then it's extended another 6 months. So why have a 6-month period to begin with? Okay, and what I'm saying is that in past practice, that has happened. And one example I'm using is like the developer fees, where it was reduced for 6 months, and it came back and was reduced for another 6 months, and then another 6 months. So we're hearing, bring it to the council. It's only for 6 months. And look, it's working really well. So public, let's forget about it. No, I don't think so. I think that the access to the public where they can make their speech on record, the more times, the better. And it's all part of the package, even though we're breaking it up, but I don't like what I'm seeing here, right, where it's limited access to the public and their rights to put their time on record. And even if you extend it, so what? Because by the time a 6-hour meeting's been done, who's paying attention to the last person that's on the last item by that time? So I don't like it. It's worked for 50-plus years for the city of Atwater and most other cities too. I don't want to see us go down this path.
Thank you. I make a motion that the regular meetings of the City Council shall be held on the 2nd Monday of each month through April 30th, 2015. Thereafter, beginning May 1, 2015, the regular meetings of the City Council shall be held on the 2nd and 4th Mondays of each month. This one? Okay.
30 days after.
30 days, I'm sorry. My apologies. Okay, I'm sorry. My apologies. My motion is to waiving the first reading and introducing ordinance number CS 957, amending Chapter 2.08 of the Atwater Municipal Code to modify the City Council's regular meeting schedules, and waiving, is that correct, sir?
That's correct. That's the first item.
That's the first item, okay. That's my motion. And then that includes the where we go back to the fifth, we go back then on we give it a trial, and then we go back to twice a month after the 5th, I think. Where was it that that's what I want in my
May
motion?
May 1st, 2015.
May 1st, yes. Okay, that's in there. Okay, that's what I want to make sure so we can give this a trial. If it doesn't work, then we can go back to the second 2 meetings a month. And then is there a second to that motion? And then we will discuss.
I'll second it.
Second it, okay. Motion by Fall, seconded by Bergman. And now Mr. Jeff Favero, followed by Mr. Bergman. Okay.
So under this motion, when would the first meeting not take place that we were normally?
Right, so the ordinance is before you for the first reading tonight. It would come back to you if it would come back to you on the 25th of August for its second reading and adoption, and it would be effective 30 days following that. So as a practical matter, the first meeting in October would be held on the second Monday of October.
And that
There would be no second
So
meeting.
you're saying
That would
You're
be
really
the
only talking
13th.
about
4 meetings? and
You're talking about
saving-
6 months. And I would point out also that in many times, you're talking about the months of October, November, December, January, February, March, and April. 2 of those months, November and December, you often only have 1 council meeting anyway. So you're talking about a trial period of really less than 6 months. But you're going to try it for about 6 months and see how it works, if this ordinance passes.
So basically, you're putting it between 2 days that we don't have it anyway, November and December. So we're automatically saving part of that 21,000 by November and December, only having 1 meetings.
Okay.
That's it.
The second part of that question, if I may?
Yes,
to-
sir.
To the attorney. We've done this on Public Works, Audit and Finance, and Public Safety. And those went 6 months, and we'll bring it back. And all but one of those we still don't have those meetings going on to this date, correct? Exactly. So we'll bring them back, and they ended up never even coming back, and only Audit and Finance came back, because obviously the city's in need of watching every penny that we spend.
The difference here is that these are commissions that are set up by ordinance. They're in your municipal code, and they have meeting times that are set. And so you need to deal with them in ordinance format. The other committees that you've talked about, audit, finance, and safety, or I forget what the other ones you're talking about, those are more ad hoc committees that meet when they need to meet. And so you don't have to make an ordinance change in order to change that.
But those were scheduled once a month. Each one of those were scheduled,
Yeah.
and then we 6 months we'll say we'll come back, we're having economic troubles, and then 6 months later, and it's been over a year for some of these committees, and that's one area where people had a right to come and speak, because it was always open to the public, so people were able to talk. Plus, there was a lot more communication going on between staff and council members, because it was just the issues. Public safety was just public safety. We had fire and police. On the Public Works, we talked about all the issues that we have on our roads, and I know some people are upset with some of the sidewalks and curbs and roads, but each one of these, people were able to come and speak, get information, and then they could come back to the council meeting and talk about, especially audit and finance. We've had a few people show up over and over, and they come to our council meetings being informed before they get there to understand what some of the key issues were. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion on the floor, and we have a second, and I'll call for the question.
Jeff Favero,
No.
Bergman,
Yes.
Joe Rivero,
No.
Mooneyham,
You know, I've heard staff say that 2 out of every 4 weeks they spend putting staff reports together. So I'm willing to give it a trial vote, yes.
Fall.
Yes. Yes.
Motion carries.
The second half of the City Attorney, could you kind of clear up on this second half so I make sure I have the right ordinance and the right before we...
Let me, if I could, Madam Mayor, if I could, I would just read the recommendation that's in your staff report, and then if a council member agrees and it can get a second, that would be the motion. They would need to repeat it. So the recommendation of staff is that the City Council waive the first reading and introduce ordinance number CF 958, repealing chapters 2.28 and 2.32 and sections 10.08.080 and 10.08.090 of the Atwater Municipal Code, and adding chapter 2.30 of the Atwater Municipal Code, creating the Community Development and Resources Commission to oversee all planning and zoning, parks and recreation, and traffic activities. And again, if there is concurrence with that, a council member could simply say, that's my motion.
Any part? Councilman Jeff Rivera?
A couple of questions I had. First of all, I'd like to know, and this is probably the time since it appears it's going to change, unfortunately, but if a person's going to apply for one of these committees, is there any way that we can add on there that they have to answer if they've been convicted of a misdemeanor or felony? I believe it was on the applications in the past, and I want to know if we can put that on, because we've had an issue with that arose, and it was not on the application, so I'd like to know if there's any way that we can put that on our application.
I'll have to research that and get back to you. I don't know the answer to that question at this time. It deals with how you would select members more than the actual creation of the commission, and that's you probably have that question with respect to any commission, even under the current scenario, right? Even if this ordinance doesn't go through, you probably want to know the answer to that as well.
Yes.
And so staff will look into that and come back with a recommendation.
Okay,
The second thing I was going to ask about is, under the current condition, and it appears that it's going to change, but I'd rather you to explain how the change is going to happen. If we switch to this versus the planning commission we already have, what are some of the issues that are going to be taken, or some of the powers that are going to be taken away from the planning commission?
There would be no powers that would be taken away from the planning commission. We, as you recall, earlier this year, we redefined the powers and duties of the planning commission, and this ordinance carries over that exactly. So there's no reduction or increase in the amount and in the discretion or the job description or the parameters of the planning commission as a result of this. They would just sit as the planning commission and deal with planning matters, then they would deal with recreation matters, and then they would deal with traffic matters. And so the agendas would just be sort of set out in those formats, I imagine. The staff is going to have to walk through that and figure
These
that
people
out.
would still have to fill out a 700 form?
If they're required to do it now, they would have to do it.
The planning
under
commission
this.
is the other.
Yeah, nothing changes under this in terms of that requirement.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve this ordinance. It's a motion as presented by the city council. Is there a second on that motion?
I'll second.
Seconded by Bergman. Okay. Now we can go ahead and discuss it since we have it on the floor in the motion, and I'll recognize Councilman Joe Rivera.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Once again, I think there were some good points brought up by the members of the public. One was the access that people have to come to these committees. Now, instead of you have you want something for one item that would be on planning, you would go there for this. Now you would sit there and wait through. If you don't have something for planning commission, you'll sit there and wait through all this other rigmarole for planning, and take up more of your time rather than really get there to the point. Because if you want whatever your issue is, you want it addressed by that specific group. It's a shame. I just see a special agenda being promoted where you have fewer individuals, so we can have our friends on rather than more individuals throughout the community to go and share and have input. You know, people that are on planning commission aren't always interested as much in, let's say, recreation or no matter what it is when you're combining these things. So where's that interest, that real lively, all heartfelt input that all these commission members are going to have when we already have many members in the community applying for some? Now there's going to be fewer of you that are going to be selected. which is a shame. I'd like to see more involvement, more input from the members of the community, because with more members, you have more minds to address the problem. And, you know, my mom used to say, she said, some people cut off their noses to spite their own faces, and I never really realized what she's talking about until I got into politics. But I mean, this is going to harm the group as a whole. I mean, the community as a whole, by allowing fewer individuals to participate in city government. That's what it's doing. I'd like to see more members participating and more access to the government. And we ask each of those members, when they come up, can you make the meetings? Do you have any problem with making 2 meetings a month, or on this day or at this time, and there's never a problem? And I think we should have something like that even continue on, because nobody's ever had a problem that sat on any committee. They were willing to give their time to go out there and meet the public and listen to their concerns. And I think that's very important. It should be one of the issues on the council. If you want to be a council member, do you want to serve your time? So anyway, I'm against this for those specific reasons, that it's limiting the access to the public, and that's the biggest reason of all.
Thank you.
Fewer minds to solve a problem.
Thank you. Councilman Bergman,
Thank
followed
you,
by
Mayor.
Councilman Mooneyham.
You know, I'm constantly hearing, you know, special interest, and a comment was made about our commissioners having special interest. Personally, I think that's an assault on the integrity of the commissioners we currently have serving. I have a great deal of confidence in our commissioners, and never once would I question their decision on any matter. The main reason I look at this, and I'm in favor of this, is when we have when we have applications, and say it's for a business, it goes to Planning Commission. Then it may have to go to traffic for ingress, egress issues. It doesn't? So then what's the purpose of the Traffic Commission? No, I'm asking you then, because you answered that, so I'm asking you, what's the purpose of all 3 commissions then?
Well, I think right now what you're seeing is there's a compartmentalization of actions. Things go to one and only one. They don't go to the multiple committees. There's no process that does that. There's no reason.
Well, and that's wrong. They should.
That's the way the ordinance is set up.
Well, I disagree with the ordinance. Any type of issue should go through all 3 departments. Having one combined, then all the issues can be taken care of at once instead of some being overlooked and not being addressed. And I'm not going to ramble. I'm just going to stop at that.
Thank you. Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Mooneyham.
The only comment I have on this item is that I think this came about as a matter of practicality in a lot of senses. Most planning commission, I served on planning commission for 5 years. I've been to traffic commission meetings. I've been to a couple of Parks and Rec meetings. Most of those meetings, by and large, take between 10 to 15 minutes. They're in, they're out. They have one item, it's discussed, they're out. Staff time for staff report preparation. If it's an hourly employee, possibly overtime for them to attend. A few resources go into that. It's more of a practical approach from my sense. And I think the public will be very well served with one commission in this sense.
Thank you. I'll call for the question. Jeff Rivera, I'm sorry.
I didn't get my turn.
Okay, I apologize, sir.
Not that I'm going to agree with you, but I do get my turn.
Yes, you sure do. And
Parks
I
and Rec,
apologize.
we canceled Park and Recreations Committee. We'll cancel the Traffic Commission, the Public Works Commission, or Committee, the Public Safety Commission. We're canceling everything. And then you're canceling it down to 1 meeting a month. So if you want to come to a City of Atwater event, make that 1 day a month, or else you're not going to be able to address this. And to me, the word dictatorship wants to take over. It's like we're taking everything and we're taking people's voices away. We're taking their chances to come and to approach the city. We're taking their chances of trying to work for the city. People want to volunteer, want to help out on Parks and Recreation, on the Traffic Commission. And there's a whole bunch of important issues that the city needs to be proactive. We're thinking backwards. We need to be thinking forwards. The city of Atwater is eventually going to grow. We went through one of the biggest devastating economic time of our life. And we're going to grow. And when we do grow, we're going to have our traffic situations figured out. It's the cities that think too late. Like, I don't want to say about any city up north, but sometimes you can't even drive for more than a half a mile before you're making a left or a right-hand turn. And the city of Atwater needs to plan ahead. That the traffic commission, when I first got on this council, I asked for the traffic commission to start looking for some of the issues that were coming down the pike. And I understand that we're having hard economic times right now, and that's why I didn't push too much harder. There was more important issues. But at some time, we're going to have to address that, especially public safety. The city of Atwater is one of the top cities in this whole area when it comes to public safety. And that's because the police and the fire do an excellent job. But we also had those meetings for public safety, and now they're gone. The people, the citizens of Atwater are having less and less opportunity to be able to come and voice their opinion or to come and help the city. And I think this is just one more step taken towards dictatorships.
Thank you. Mr. Bergman, Councilman Bergman, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to ask, I know we had a public comment before we dealt with the city council meetings, council issues, but I don't know that all the citizens got a chance to talk, and I just wondered, could we have a public comment for?
Let me go through the city attorney, because I thought we had public on both items, so.
Well, I think I could see where the public might have been a little confused, because we talked about breaking it up into two separate actions, and then as people began testifying, they started talking about both items. And there may be one or two people out there who thought they would get a second crack on the second item, and so if it's in the chair's discretion to allow.
Okay, let's go ahead and,
for additional comment.
We have a motion on the floor and we have a second, so if you have any comments, this is the super committee, so please come forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, City Attorney, for that interpretation. Jim Price, 3467 Village Wood. Just a quick question. If you combine everything together, all the commissions together, I think Councilmember Jeff Rivero brought up a good point here. The Form 700, if you're going to put everybody equated the same with the with the Planning Commission, Planning Commissioners are required for a 700 form. Would you not then, if you equate everybody equally, would not everybody then be required to fill out a Form 700 the same as a Planning Commissioner? If it were a separate entity.
Yeah, every member of this commission, if it is formed, the Community Development and Resources Commission, all 7 members would have to fill out the Form 700 because they would be involved in planning and zoning, recreation, and traffic.
So
yes.
Essentially they become, I hate to use the word, a different type of a city official in a sense, because you're filling out the 700 and that type of thing.
Well, you know, if they perform the functions of a planning commission especially,
right,
we know that all members of the planning commission have to fill out the Form 700 and disclose their economic interest because they're acting on projects that could be affected by that.
Right.
So all 7 members of this commission would have that same responsibility.
Very good. That answered my question. Thank you.
Thank you.
James Vineyard, 2401 Canal Drive. Section 2.30030, member qualifications. I have a little issue with that one because you're requiring the qualified electors to reside in the corporate city limits. There are a lot of intelligent people out there who have a vested interest in this city that live outside the city limits. So what you're saying is they may work in the city, they may have businesses in the city, but they live in the 95301 area code. And you're saying you have to move in the city limits if you want to be on one of these commissions, and I think that is disrespectful to those people. I think that should be opened up to anyone who lives in the 95301 area code, because those people have input and should have input into what this city needs to grow. You're talking about people being able to voice their opinion. Those people should be able to voice their opinion on how the city grows and how it should be run. I also, on the terms of office, I think number one and number two ought to be combined. I don't think you should have a person in office for 1 year. They're learning. That first year is a learning curve in a lot of these, and if you do cross-training between the Planning Commission, Traffic Commission, and the Park and Rec Commission people, it's a learning curve for that first year. So I think really the minimum term should be 2 years, in my opinion. Thank you. Go ahead if you.
Yeah, and I would, we won't dialogue about it necessarily. I'll just answer the question that was posed. On the latter question, or latter comment, we were trying to establish a staggering of terms, and that's all that was intended to do. On the first, that's a matter of election law. You do have to be a member of the, or you have to reside within the city limits, just as you have to do to run for city council, right? Somebody from Turlock can't run for the Atwater City Council. So it's a matter of election law. You have to be a qualified elector, and you have to reside within the city limits. And so it's the same thing for council. We do the
Correct.
same thing for commissions.
Okay.
Basically, that's the reason.
Thank you.
Eric Lee, 1199 Atwater Boulevard. There would be 7 commissioners on the super commission, and I have a hard time understanding how that's a dictatorship. And I kind of resent that. I really do. I don't think that's a dictatorship. And I don't think we need to say that. There are probably some people in this town who have lived under dictatorships, and they would probably resent that too.
Thank you.
Jim Murphy, 262 Juniper. I agree mostly with what both the Riveros have said. Having served for many years on the Parks and Rec Commission, I can tell you, having attended the commission meetings, a lot of people don't have interest in traffic if they're on parks or planning and traffic, et cetera. You're going to have people that are going to have their favorite areas. That's what they're mostly going to know about, and the other areas are going to get neglected. I understand the monetary issue, but I really agree with Joe Rivero about limiting the public access. What I'm hearing is, for practicality, like Councilman Mooney had said, it's not going to be practical. You're going to have extra long meetings, that something's going to get neglected. You're going to have people that know a little bit about a lot of things and not as much as only having one item to deal with. I understand what you're trying to do here, but from my point of view as a public member, it seems to me that you're just trying to isolate yourselves. You're trying to keep us from speaking our minds. And 7 people on a commission, well, no, it's not a dictatorship. You're going to have a very small pool of people that are very possibly, I'm not saying necessarily this council, but in the future, handpicked. They're going to direct things the way certain people want, because like I said before, everybody has an agenda. I cannot believe that you're actually contemplating further isolating yourselves from the citizens of Atwater. I think that's a huge mistake.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor and we have a second. And it appears the community has spoken, so I'll call for the question. Do you want to read that? The motion comes from which, make sure we're correct on this. Okay, so the motion is that the recommendation is the 1 and the 2 in the staff report, is that correct?
Just item 2.
Just the 2, okay, these 2 here, okay. Okay, so that's my motion, and we have a second on that? Okay, so we're correct, City Attorney?
Yes.
Can I call for the question?
Mooneyham,
Yes.
Bergman,
Yes.
Joe Rivero,
No.
Jeff Rivero,
You can't stifle my vote, no.
Fall,
Yes.
motion carries.
Okay, motion carries, and we'll move on to item number 14, and City Council matters. Remember, the Bicentennial celebration is coming on the 26th, so be sure that we have a barbecue dinner, we have lots of things going on, so see, where's my, we all got, which page is it? Last page, okay, my apologies. Let me see that real quick, thank you. Okay, the date is Friday, September 26th. The Bloss House will be 100 years old, and the time is 6 p.m. Location is the Bloss House grounds, and there's going to be a barbecue, $25 per person. Please get your money in by September 10th. Seating is limited. Dinner starts with a tri-tip and catered by the Corvellos. And then we have entertainment provided by the Atwater and Buhack Colony Drama Club. And then we have a community plaque. And we'll have the installation of the officers and board of directors. Please come. This is our history. This is 100 years, the Bloss home. So please come out. Kathy Jensen, Greg Ozak, all those wonderful people. Mrs. Johnson and Mr. Ferretta here is part of the Bloss, but come out and support us, and this is a wonderful, wonderful event. So that's the Bloss home dedication on the September 26th. There's tickets on sale. The other thing that I wanted to talk about, and I will bring it, is the Patriots Day, September 11th, right out here. We start at 6 o'clock. Please come. Since Councilman Jeff Rivero suggested that we move it to 6 o'clock, we've really got a wonderful turnout. And this is our day to remember our people who've given their lives for our service, our people who we lost in 9/11 that we'll never, ever forget. And this year, we're going to recognize our man, Mr. Hearns from Atwater High School, was a graduate who gave his life for us. So we hope to recognize him at that time. So we are inviting you all to come. Please come. With that, I'm going to, Mr. Jeff, you did the pledge tonight, right? So you're first on the docket.
How we go about that, I would like to make either a resolution or, I think it's a resolution to name a day in our city after the Junior Giants, and I'd like to tell you why. I was able to go last month to the Junior Giants Festival Day of Reading at AT&T Park. They allowed all of our kids to go down onto the field, hit off of a tee, actually run the bases that the baseball players run off of. Then they fed us a yogurt because they believe in teaching kids about eating healthy. And then we were able to go out, and the team that was supposed to play against us was held up. So our team actually played against two other supervisors and myself. We had kids hitting home runs over the left field fence and off the wall, having a ball. We were probably out there 20 or 30 minutes. Every kid got a bat 7 or 8 times. When that was over, and believe it or not, even though it was Bay Area and it didn't seem that hot, my yellow shirt was soaked like I jumped in a swimming pool. But by the time it was over, they gave the kids some water. We went in and they taught them about stop and breathe. So it's kind of like an anger management type of issue. We were in the visitors' locker room where the other baseball teams play and dress and undress. And I was able to tell the kids, I used to work for the Signal quite a long time ago, but I was able to go in the back room with the players, and it's amazing. They want to make sure that they feed their machines correctly, because they had a table or spread for just about anything you can think of to eat off of. So I was explaining that to my kids. We talked about not blowing your temper, how to stop, breathe, think, choose, act, and cheer. They gave them packets with the game day. They had actually headgear, and then there was baseball cards. Every single kid that went there. What was really amazing, they gave books like this to every one of our kids. And one of the promises they told me, hey, Jeff, or they didn't call me by name, but they said, hey, Coach, if you want one of these, you got to try to encourage people to read. So I told them I would show up today and show everybody. This is one common goal, the 2012 World Championship of the San Francisco Giants. And it's filled with probably 200-300 pages, pictures and all kind of information. And that's what they did for every single kid for the city of Atwater that could make it. It was amazing to me.
Yeah.
And they've been supporting us, I believe, for the last 10 years. Junior Giants have been in service for 20, and I think we jumped on a little bit afterwards. So I wanted to explain to you why I was so impressed by this organization. I was going to ask you, how can we make a resolution or name a day after the Junior Giants in the city of Atwater?
We'll certainly look into how to do that. I don't see it would be a problem. The only problem for me is I grew up in Los Angeles, watched Don Drysdale and Sandy Koufax pitch when I was a kid, I'm told anyway. Even though I bleed Dodger blue, I admire what the Giants are doing here, so I'll work on it.
If we could work on that and then maybe come up with a date sometime later September or the first part of October, so we could invite them down here, and I'd love to be able to let them know how much we appreciate it. I think we have close to 300 kids out there participating, and the last time I talked to Jeff Hammer, I forget the exact number, but it's a huge amount. And most of the kids I notice, and not trying to make a statement, but most of the kids that play in Junior Giants aren't able to afford to play in AYB and Little League.
That's the way it's supposed to be. The organization is supposed to be
outstanding. So, and also I'd like to be able to thank Hammer, Jeff Hammer, Steve Jensen, the Barras, and Grandma Jones, if we can put them on our next city council to tell them thank you, because once again, the season's come to an end. I believe its closing ceremonies is 6 o'clock Wednesday.
Can you give us a list of those names, please, so we can get them on the 25th agenda? And when did you say the closing ceremonies?
I believe they're this Wednesday at
That would be
6,
the...
right? At 6 o'clock?
The 13th,
I
no.
think city manager said he was barbecuing hot dogs and hamburgers for us.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Mooneyham?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I believe we just passed a rather important milestone. This person who works for the city of Atwater recently celebrated 20 years of service. Generally considered to be one of the brightest people we have working for the organization, gives tirelessly to the city, does whatever he can, and is always there, and is generally tabbed by people outside the city as the go-to person for the city. So I'd like everybody to give Scott McBride a round of applause for his service. Thanks, Scott. That's it.
Councilman Bergman?
Not much to add, just happy anniversary, Scott. I'm glad that put a smile on your face. You were looking kind of grumpy there, so.
Thank you. Councilman Joe Rivero?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to invite our city attorney to contact the Junior Dodgers, if there one that exists, and see if they'll come down, and maybe we'll have a rivalry here with the Giants and the Dodgers right here in Atwater. My only comment is that there's some chunks of asphalt out on Canal. There's large chunks, and so if we can get those patched.
Is that it, sir?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, one more thing.
Sure.
I'm sorry. But school's about to begin.
Thank you.
Week after next, and there's going to be a lot more children out in the mornings and right after school, so be extra careful. I know sometimes I see people zooming to work, but be extra cautious right now. We don't have any tragedies happen, and especially with some of the young ones, it'll be their first time going to school. They may not be doing the right thing, crossing right where they need to be, so I'm encouraging parents out there, friends and families to show them where they need to cross and the safe routes to school, and all drivers to be extra cautious.
Councilman Joe Rivero? I'm Jeff Rivero. My apologies.
One thing I forgot, and I would like to tell Pat, if you could thank the gentlemen or staff who have painted the crosswalks and the school exiting signs by the schools. I know 5 years ago I asked to have that done, and it's been done consistently for the last 5 years. So would you tell the crew we thank them for that because every ounce helps of prevention for our children. Thank you. It's noticeable, and we really appreciate it.
Okay, we have a big event coming to Atwater, and that will be on the this weekend, which is going to be the, let's make sure I'm right on this. It's out at our Atwater, the Tom Dash Atwater Pal go-kart race. It's going to be on the 16th and the 17th. Sean Jackson called me, and there's major different types of racing that are going out there. There's go-karts, there's all types of, we've got a beautiful track facility out there. You need to go out and see it. There's dirt, there's asphalt, and it starts at 11, I think it is, and they're 11 till evening, and both Saturday and Sunday, there's major races. Go out and see what's happening. That's kind of our hidden jewel out there, and it's beautiful. And I think the cost is $10 for adults, and then little people get in after a certain age, get in free. So it's a good thing to, but anyway, if you could go out, that's wonderful. We still could use contributions on replacing our bikes in the BMX, that we lost those bikes. And so with that, I think that's pretty, but again, be careful. And especially if you're around high school, Atwater High School and Buhack, those older people, high school people, they're worse than any little 5-year-old. So watch out for them, please. Have a safe opening school, and meeting is adjourned. Thank you.